Good afternoon, dear friends. Today we are going to talk about the last chapter of computer communication network, that is application layer and LANs. We have already covered in the previous lectures what are the different switching or networking devices. In the today's lecture we will talk about the seventh layer of the OSI model, that is application layer. So we are going to discuss what is the different function and what are the different protocols we used in application layer, and Ethernet and the virtual LANs we are going to talk about. The objective of the today's lecture is by defining the application layer, that is the source and destination of data communication, and we will explain the role of protocols used at this instant of layer. Then we will be talking about presentation of the features, operation and use of well-known TCP/IP application layer services. So we have different protocols, that is called as a HTTP, Hypertext Terminal Protocol, DNS, SMTP. So these are the various protocols we are going to discuss in this chapter. So what is application layer basically? So that is, as we all know, that this is the seventh layer, last layer of our OSI model. So application layer is an interface between human and data networks. So as you can see on the left hand side, one is a human sitting, okay, where they are communicating with each other, and a person sitting on a laptop, it's working. So that is a human, that is the first end, and on the other end you can see data network, where the person or various person and the devices are connected or communicating with each other. So how the communication takes place, or how the interfacing takes place between the human and the data network, that is what the role of an application layer. That is why OSI model is divided into different layers. So it is a layered structured, as we all know. So using a different layers, one, how the interfacing between the two ends can be taken place, we have learned so far. So this is the last where the users are going to interface and they communicate with each other. In the next slide you can see, as we all know, it is an interfacing between the two hosts, we can say, or two networks, we can say. So this is the seventh layer, which is called the application layer. So interface between application or a network. So here you can see the two modules are given. One are the 7 layers and one are a 4 layers. So what is this? So this is basically the OSI model layers, 7 layers, and this is TCP/IP protocol layer. So where TCP/IP has 4 layers, in which you can see the network, the first 2 layers of our OSI model is combined and named as network access layer, and the internet layer is a second layer of a TCP/IP, which is nothing but network layer of our OSI model. The transport layer is same as in TCP/IP, but when we talk about the TCP/IP application layer, so the three upper layers of OSI model, that is session layer, presentation layer and application layers, are combined, and that we call it as a application layer. And beside of this you can see various protocols names are given. So as you can see, dynamic host configuration protocol, post office protocol, simple mail transfer protocol, hypertext transfer protocol, HTTP, SMTP, and domain name systems. So these are the protocols which will be used at these different layers. So today we'll be talking about HTTP, that is hypertext terminal, and TCP and FTP. We will talk about that. So first the question comes in your mind, what is the full form of HTTP? So HTTP stands for hypertext transfer protocol. The function or the role of this is nothing but it is a communication between web clients and server. So again a question comes in your mind, what is web clients and server? So Communication between client computers and web server is done by sending HTTP request and receiving HTTP responses. So this is another part. First we have to understand what is web server and web client. So in the next slide the diagram is given. So in this slide you can just see the diagram. Web client on the very left hand side, that is nothing but a personal computer, or web server where various systems or routers, we can say a server room is there. In between the cloud is there where we can store the data. The server's data can be stored at the cloud. So using the World Wide Web is about communication between web clients and web servers. So clients are often browsers. So examples of browsers are Chrome, that can be Chrome, Edge and Safaris that we have day-to-day life. We use these type of browsers. We use Mozilla also, but they can be any type of program or device. So at the web client end we can write down any commands or any program, any code. So that is nothing but we are generating some commands, and in response to that it will send that command to the server, and in response, after receiving a response from the client, server will respond back to the client. That is what exactly happening in this type of protocol, which is called as HTTP. Alright, now at the server end are most often computers in the cloud. So as I told you, this is nothing but a server. Various PCs are connected, laptop PCs are connected, host is connected, the data is stored on the cloud. So that is nothing but basically communication between the web client and the web server. So now I think so you guys have got the idea what is two-way communication, like what is happening in the HTTP protocol. So what is web client? As I gave in the example, that is nothing but a browser. From that, using that browser we can write some program, we can write some code, we can write some commands, and that commands can be interfaced or sent to the web servers. So this is basically what is happening using a HTTP protocol. Now how HTTP send request from the client to the server. So let's see stepwise. So the very first step is given. A client, that is nothing but a browser, sends an HTTP request to the web. So that is nothing but a web server. So from a client to the web server a request has sent. That is the first one. Second one, the very simple step is nothing but an web server receives the request. A web server receives the request. In response to that request, the server runs an application to process the request. The server returns an HTTP response, that is nothing but an output. Definitely that is nothing but an output to the browser, to a client. So once a client send a request to the web, that request is received. After receiving the request, it will run the application to process, and in response to that it will send a HTTP response to the client, or that is nothing but a browser. The client, that is a browser, receives the response. So this is basically what is happening. This is how the communication is taking place using the HTTP protocol. So this is which we have learned in this slide. Now the very important point are features. So what are the features? So first is HTTP is connectionless. Now in the earlier part we have studied two types of protocol. One is UDP, one is TCP. So there we have studied that UDP is again a connectionless, and TCP is a connection oriented protocol. So in a very detailed we have already discussed why the UDP is connectionless and what is the meaning of connectionless, and why the TCP is connection oriented and what is the meaning of connection oriented, so that the concept is clear. So just keep that idea in your mind. Now here the first feature is again, that is nothing but a connectionless. That means HTTP request is initiated by the browser, definitely as per the user's request for information. The service will process the request, that is by the server, and launch back with a response which a client. So that is nothing but a connectionless. No physical connection is taking place between the two ends. That is what the meaning of connectionless. So that is a great feature of HTTP, where we don't require any we don't need to do the connection establishment. That is what the advantage. Then HTTP is simple. Why it is simple? Because it does the encapsulation of HTTP messages into frames. So here the messages or the information is transmitting to the server in the form of a frames. That is why it becomes simple to read, and it is very simple to design. Then the third one is HTTP extensible customized. So it is customized, so definitely it will be helpful. So HTTP can be integrated with the new functionality by providing a simple agreement between a client and a server. That means a message can be customized, that is not automatic. So the frames or the idea or the information can be modified, alright, can be altered. That is what the third feature. And the last one is HTTP is stateless. What do you mean by stateless? Like UDP is also stateless protocol. Then again HTTP is a stateless protocol. Stateless means what? Once the signal is transferred from the user end, no acknowledgement is received by the receiver whether the transmitted signal is received or not. That is why it is called as a stateless, but not sessionless. So we'll try to understand what is the meaning of stateless and the sessionless. So HTTP is a stateless protocol, which means there is no connection among two requests being consecutively carried out on the same connection. However, when the core of the HTTP is itself a stateless one. So when we talk about the HTTP simple protocol, when there is no connection, first of all, then it is a stateless. That means when we talk about the web server and the web client, the communication is taking place. So in response to the signal which is transferred from the web client to the web server, the web server will not intimate to the web client that I have received the message or not, data or not, packet or not, frame or not. So that is what the meaning of a stateless. Then HTTP cookies providing in making use of stateless or stateful sessions. So that is why that is a sessionless. Why? Because it is making a useful of stateful sessions. The sessions are stateful, not a stateless. So these are the features which is very good for a day-to-day life communication. That is why it is widely used protocol in a day-to-day life. In a browsers we use this protocol HTTP. Before that, I just want to give the example how the